Hi there, Beeb.
Hey, Shelby, how are you?
I'm good. And everybody, just in case you're wondering, her name isn't really Beeb, but that's always been my
Correct,
nickname for her.
correct.
So
Yes.
that's what I call her. And my name is really Shelby. Um,
But we call her Cobra Kai, Shelby GT, anything like that.
yeah, I like a sports car sort of a nickname, because I
Yeah,
am
you are
built
kind
for
of
speed, right? No, no,
Yes,
not
you are.
not built for speed. No.
You're built for
Okay.
speed, absolutely.
Sure,
My
sure.
husband loves to call her Shelby GT. Shelby GT. Shelby GT. I'm like, okay, yes.
If he ever really gets to know me, he'll realize how ironic that is.
I don't think it's ironic at all.
Oh, thanks, Beeb. Thanks.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Beeb is the perfect co-host for this podcast, which is about sort of my what would we call it, Beeb?
I don't
My
know.
failed sort of social media experiment, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Or just the woes of trying to date when you live remotely. I don't know. I don't know what we're really going to sum
Yeah,
this up as in our
yeah,
conclusion.
yeah.
But
But
right
you're
now, we
right.
just, yeah.
We're trying to sort of let you all know what I went through.
Hmm.
Try to explain why, which is a tough one to
Yeah,
explain
yeah,
why
the
I
why
allowed
is
this,
very tough.
But I
Hmm.
think you did touch on something. Being living remotely in rural Maine, where it's
Right.
really cold right now. To be honest, though, I wasn't looking for any sort of a relationship at this point in my life. I had kind of thrown in the towel, didn't think it was in the cards for me. So um, I responded to a post that Ricky Gervais had posted on Facebook, just sort of innocently, just, showing my support. And that was it. And I didn't really expect anything to come from it. So
Yeah.
when he replied, or when I thought he was replying, I still was suspicious. This is kind of a recap if you didn't listen to the first one, but
Yeah.
I allowed myself to start to believe that maybe for whatever reason he decided, to just like reach out, like maybe he was bored one day and decided to
Yeah.
see who these people were on the other side of these comments, and he picked me. So I tried to make the most of it. And
Yeah, absolutely. And so here we are, episode 4. We are naming
episode
this one
4,
Slick Ricky, which I
Slick
think is just
Ricky.
a fucking classic name. I
There
do. I think it's a
was a
classic name.
rapper named Slick Rick, but that's not
Yeah,
him.
okay, that's what I thought. But
Hmm.
anyway, so to recap episode 3 more so, the trip was canceled. You guys had planned on going on,
Yeah.
but because of his pneumonia,
Hmm.
pneumonia, this was canceled. But also throughout his treatments with Dr. Dave, he had been
Hmm.
reaching out to Shelby asking for money. Again,
Hmm.
celebrity flying under the radar, asking for money. There's just like a lot of open-ended questions here, right?
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair,
Right,
Beeb.
right.
Yeah, and I had asked him, when it seemed like he was really sort of seriously ill, from
Yeah.
like the complications, I think that began as pneumonia and then turned into this acute respiratory disease syndrome, which is a real thing. I looked it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It is
But
a real
it
thing.
is real. But he didn't want to have this leaked to the media or anything. He didn't want anybody to know that he was really sick. So he went to this like back room doctor somewhere, Dr.
Yeah.
Dave, who could be paid in different types of currency, iTunes
Yeah, which
card,
is
you
first of all
know.
I've never heard of in the healthcare
No,
field, but,
no,
you know.
right, right. And I also asked him, I said, don't you have health insurance? And he's like, well, then everybody would know, then, and I can't
But that's
risk
a
that.
pretty good play though. That's a good, like, whether it's real or fake play.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sick, you don't want it out in social media. You're still trying to like
Mm-hmm.
do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. He
real.
didn't want it to affect his tour.
Yeah.
And I was very, very worried that he really was sick and that he
Yeah.
wasn't taking it seriously. I was really
Hmm.
scared that he was going to keep pushing himself
Right.
because I
Right.
had this sort of impression, and I don't know if this is true of the real Ricky, but that he was a workaholic, that he was always
Right.
doing something. He was always saying yes to something, like doing
Hmm.
interviews and things like that. And I just didn't
Hmm.
think he would know how important it was to just kind of prioritize his health. And I was like nagging him,
Yeah.
and he said he appreciated that, knowing that I was worried about him, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Whatever.
so
Whatever.
so yeah. So I had told him that I was going to have access to this money from a retirement fund that I had forgotten about. I didn't plan on tapping into it, ever. It wasn't huge.
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't really going to allow me to retire. It was just going to maybe solve one or two problems, I guess. Um, and also, I think at this point, I don't know if it's important to point out, but I didn't really know that my fall and my winter were going to be so hard. I didn't know it was going to be a super cold winter. I
Ugh.
didn't know that my refrigerator
Yeah.
would break,
It's
that
been
my
a
stove
rough
would break,
winter. Yeah.
that one of my tires would blow
The
out and I'd have
heating
to replace
situation.
all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my furnace, my radiators don't work in my house. So lots of things I should have maybe saved some money for, but I didn't
Right. Right.
anticipate any like real life emergencies, only
No.
imaginary
No.
ones. So that was all my fault. But so
Yeah. Sure.
once uh
Sure.
once I had access to this money, he started like sort of mapping out how I could send it to him. And
Right. Right.
Bitcoin came up again, and it's like, all right, I'm really
What
going
the
to have to get
fuck
the
with
hang.
Bitcoin? Yeah.
Well, it's
My
it's like
husband does Bitcoin stuff. It's all
really
nonsense.
it well it
That's
is.
what I think of. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
like, th- unless Trump, excuse me, will fully implement.
any sort of regulations, but he
Yeah.
never would. He
Yeah.
never would, because it's
No,
it's
because it's
it's meant for people
unstable.
like that. Yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
very volatile. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned a lot about cyber
Yeah.
currencies, which I
Yeah.
wasn't anticipating at this point in my life.
Mm-mm.
I don't have any sort
No.
of like savings or anything, or investments,
Yeah.
but so he said if I could start sending Bitcoin, because you can do it so anonymously, if
Right.
you
Right.
but you really kind of have to have cash. It's
Yeah.
hard to do with credit cards because, like I said, there's all these roadblocks and red
Mm-hmm.
flags. So all these companies like PayPal and everybody, they're all on the lookout for scams. And this money's used for nefarious purposes, like
Absolutely. And it's like on the
drugs.
black market. Yeah, it's the black
Yeah,
market
yeah.
kind of like scheme of everything.
Yeah, like
But
it just sounds like you're doing something bad, if
yeah.
you're using Bitcoin as your currency, you
Yeah.
know?
So
So,
like okay, because you know this and like I think that's
mhm.
super ingrained. But like did he offer you something? Like what kept you hooked here, Shelby?
Okay. Well, yeah, he had sort of played me, very well. I mean, he knew exactly, the kinds of
Yeah.
things that mattered to me. He knew
Mm.
what I'd like to hear, and he had sent me some video, or no, not videos, but little audio clips of like songs. He sent me a clip of
Oh.
A Whitney Houston song and a Nora Jones song and
Of
stuff. And
him singing?
no, 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 just them
No, okay,
singing,
okay, okay,
just,
okay, okay,
yeah.
okay. Hmm.
Just like trying to sort of let me know how romantic he was. Um,
Okay, okay.
and
Yeah,
I
so
felt
you're
like
still hooked, like you're in
I'm
love with
totally hooked.
him.
Yeah. And I kind of
Yeah,
felt
you're,
like
yeah,
he saw me the way I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be seen as someone who was, compassionate and kind and,
yeah.
caring
Down
and,
for, yeah, yeah.
and all these things that I don't really ever get to be. I'm just
Sure.
usually just a sullen spinster, in
Oh,
the middle
you,
of fucking
you
nowhere.
You fucking stop. You fucking stop right now because you're not.
Uh,
And you know why? Because I'm one of your best friends and I'm here with you and we're just bringing light to this because it's a shitty situation and I know we have so much more to offer, right?
okay. All right. Thanks,
Okay?
Pete. We are also
That was
drunk.
good.
I don't
That
know
was
what you're drinking right now, but I'm still on my Dutch Barn vodka and
this
tonic.
is
I've splashed quite a bit of tonic in here, everyone. So
there is
don't
some
worry.
gin. There is
Some
some
gin. I
gin.
like a nice gin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Gin with soda, but no lime, unfortunately. And then I put
Mm.
blueberries in it, thinking
I
I would
think
like
that's
it.
nice. I think that's classy.
I'll eat them at the end. That's the whole
That'll
thing.
be nice for
Yeah.
everyone. I think if you eat the blueberries. Yeah. So they're all collecting the bottom, soaked in gin. We're gonna have a fun time at work tomorrow.
I
Um,
know. Jeez.
yeah. But so anyway, one of the other things that he offered was we had canceled the October trip because of
Right. Right.
all these
His
factors that
pneumonia.
wound up costing money.
Right. 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 Right.
And that crushed me completely because that had been my one opportunity I thought to really figure out what this was and who this was. So that was taken away, and so I
Right.
was still reeling from that. And he mentioned that he wanted to take another trip. He wanted to make it up to me, and he realized how much he had disappointed me. And
Of course.
so he said, where would you like to go? And he's like, we could go to China, Peru, Venice, you name it. If you want to go someplace other than these places, just let me know. And I'm thinking, well, this guy is still sick. I don't want him sitting on a plane for a
Yeah.
long
Yeah. Yeah.
time. So I said, well, how about Venice? It's close enough that if he
Venice
has to
is
get back
great.
to Dr. Dave, it's
Right there.
possible,
Right there.
you know. But he said, this couldn't happen until I had a gap in my schedule, between shows, because I want it to be like a proper vacation. So we sort of landed on May of this year. That was going to be when we took our vacation to Venice. And then I didn't really realize it at the time, but then it kind of gave him like a line that he could lean on anytime I was in distress, or feeling like this wasn't real. He would just say, you just have to be patient. We're going to meet in
Right.
Venice. It's going.
It
And
will
so
happen. It's
it
going
will
to happen.
happen,
This is
and he's
what is
like,
going on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, I can't wait, I can't wait for this either.
Mm,
And so
mm,
I kind of let myself, well, it took me a while. It took me a long
yeah.
time, really, after the first main vacation didn't happen, to believe that anything was really going to happen. And I had a hard time even mentioning Venice because I thought, I've been through this with you before. I don't know that it's going to happen. And
Right.
I
Right.
can't
Right. But
lie to
so
you.
yeah, yeah. So, but up until this point, I mean, I know like all these things have happened. He bailed, blah blah blah. Money's on the
Mm-hmm.
doorstep. Does
Mm-hmm.
uh, are there new financial requests coming through? I mean, like still health related, like
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of his
So
pneumonia.
yeah, I guess I got distracted from the Bitcoin thing.
That's
But
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was how he wanted all this money to be transferred, was via Bitcoin. So I
Which is
tried
so
sending,
weird. We changed from gift cards of a
yeah,
kid
yeah.
who, I mean, that's what what's that program?
Oh, Make a Wish. Yeah,
Make
it
a
was
wish, make a
sort of
wish.
like that. Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if it was a true Make a Wish kid, or
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
made up
A fabricated
regardless,
make a wish. Yeah, which is
but you know.
so immoral. If anyone's listening and you hear, seriously, if someone, there are scammers out there that want to do make a wish, and
Mhm.
it's fabricated. You'd never know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I don't know who this little boy was, but he had multiple pictures of him, that he would
Mm.
send to me, and I'd get emails from his dad thanking me, and from Jason himself thanking me for helping Ricky. And so that all felt sort of, I don't know, fleshed out enough that I kind of allowed myself to believe that
Right,
part.
right, right, right.
Um, so I started to send him money through Bitcoin. I tried the ATMs, the Bitcoin ATMs. There was one right in my grocery store, and you have to feed cash
God,
into it. And I felt like, God, if anybody I know sees me here, I'm gonna have I'm going to be so,
Big problems. They're gonna be like,
you
"What are you
know,
doing?"
yeah, like you don't want to know, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so then I realized though that there was a huge transaction fee when you did it that way. So I started to like just I put my money in a Coinbase, which is a platform where you can invest. You connect your bank
Yeah, yeah,
accounts and you can track the highs and lows of Bitcoin and stuff. And so I really hated that. I really hated having to like guess when it was going to go up and when it was going to go down and when it would be a good
yeah,
time to buy and sell. It was like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fuck, this is not what I want my life to
Invest
be.
in? Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't have the brain for that. And I told him, I was
Right.
like, I realized I was looking up, stuff about Bitcoin, and it turns out I'm a shrimp wallet. A
You're
shrimp
not.
wallet.
You're
Do
not.
you know
You're
what a
not.
shrimp wallet is? Have you heard that term?
No, I haven't heard
It's
that
it's
term.
someone who invests a very, very small
Oh, that's
amount in
me.
Bitcoin.
I'm a very low baller. I mean, my husband likes to invest, but I don't have the capital for it. So
Yeah, no,
it's,
I don't think it's a great idea. And
mm,
so
mm,
I had told him, I'm going to try to get you this much money, and then when the Bitcoin like would fall, I felt like I would disappoint him if I didn't get it, to him
hmm.
at the amount that I had promised,
Well, you should
So I
never have felt like that, anyways.
yeah,
Like,
I
no
know.
matter who it is, but I know that
I
was like a
know.
whole thing. It was like, just,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
he knew that there were ups and downs to Bitcoin, so he knew, I
yeah,
think, that we were
yeah,
never going to know if it was going to go high or low, but it was very,
yeah,
very nerve-wracking, and you could only do like even that platform had limits to how much you could trade at a
yeah,
time, unless you
yeah,
were
yeah.
like a big like shark wallet or whatever they're called, but as a shrimp wallet, they were like you are in way over your head. So we're going to try to help you. you know.
Yes, okay. So
So,
from okay, so we know what he's asked kind of financially. I mean,
hmm
I don't want to hear more about that because it's makes
I
me
know.
sick and angry. It makes me angry. You know, I get angry about
hmm
that stuff.
hmm
So what at this point is keeping you from walking away, Shelby? Why did you not say go fuck yourself and walk
hmm
away?
That's a real question, a real good
I mean,
question.
excuse the swear words.
No,
Why?
no, that's why
Why?
swear words were invented.
Yeah.
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 I don't know if I have a great answer. I think
Did he offer you something? Was there another trip? Did you see a pattern? Like, did you try? Like, I just don't know. I'm trying to put it all together. What
yeah,
kept you
well,
hooked? Why are
I
you still
think
hooked?
why am I still hooked? I think he had sort of built a vision of a world where we had a future, and
Okay.
he would ask me, like, where do you see yourself in 2 years, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, hopefully I would see myself somewhere where I'm spending more time with you, where I get to see you, and he said,
Wow.
well, of course, that will happen, but I'm thinking like, what about like, what sort of job would you like? Do you have any dreams, and
Right.
I said, well, if I
What
had a
were those
job,
dreams? You have
well,
a job.
I know, but I said, like, I would want a job basically where, it allowed me to see you, So I said, if
Right.
I
Right.
had a job where I could only, or if we had a situation where I could only see you like a couple weeks out of the year, like now, then I would like a job where it's okay to cry all the time. And I said, like, maybe like at an onion ring factory.
Oh my God. That's
And
funny.
he's
That's
like,
good.
well, what about like a
That's
real
good.
job?
That's
He
good.
said, you mentioned once that you owned a bookstore. And I said, yeah. And I loved that job, but he said, well, maybe we could set something like that up for you over here. Would you have any interest in living in England? And, at this point, like Trump's been elected. Like, are you kidding? What? Of course, anywhere but here,
Anything goes at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah, So he kind of acted like he wanted to, like, he wanted to pay me back in ways way beyond just like refunding my money. He told me that he was keeping track of every dime that I was sending him and stuff, and I know, of course, those are just words, but I wanted to believe that that was true. And he said that the tour, like management, everybody was sort of scrutinizing his funds, his finances, like until April. And then like contracts changed over. And that's when I would become part of his team, and that's when he could
Mm-hmm.
pay me back, was in April. So I think part of me was thinking, all right, if I can get to April now, then I'll
Right,
know.
right,
Then I'll
right,
know for
right.
sure. Even if we don't make it to Venice, at least if I get to April, I'll know whether or not this is just a scam.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was. It's weird. Like I was trying to think, like every time he sent a message, I would think, does this sound like something Ricky Gervais would say? And
Right,
some of
right,
the messages you could tell like were like quick ones on a phone, and then
right,
other
right.
messages were really like constructed, nicely, and they were lovely messages. And I thought he's probably on his computer now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I kind of
Yeah.
like had this like vision of where he was and
Oh, yeah, or yeah.
who, and also Beeb, I'm thinking, at this point he's supposed to be getting these oxygen treatments every week. He's seeing his
Right, right,
doctor
right.
like before his shows and then again after his shows, and he's on
Mm,
meds. He's on meds that knock him out at
yeah.
night, he says. And I'm thinking, if he like if the language or anything is sloppy, I think, well, maybe he's just, it's his meds. you
Yeah,
know
sure, sure. But
you
again,
know
yeah, yeah. So you're just following it. It's like it's still a real relationship at this point. I mean,
it kind of
that's
felt like
what,
it. Yeah.
yeah, because that is what a relationship is. I mean, you're never through
Hmm.
like this fucking glory phase forever. Um,
Hmm.
but so the connection is still growing. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know. He expresses so much interest in your life, right? At one point, he said he was going to send something for your daughter. Get
Yeah,
me wrong. Sorry.
he would ask about her all the time, how she was, and he knew that, she had a boyfriend and stuff. And
Yeah, and you let so much of your personal life out there for this
mhm.
person, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
And yeah, so he told me that well, I told him she wanted to learn to play guitar and that I was going to
uh-huh.
try to get her a guitar for Christmas, and he said, "No, let me do that. Let me take care of that."
Right, right.
And he sent a picture of a guitar and he said, "Would this do?" Like it was an old
Mm-hmm,
guitar he
mm-hmm.
had. And I was like, "Oh, that, of course, are you kidding? She would love that." He's like,
Right, right.
"Really?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, all right, so we'll work on that." And I figured, why make promises like that, that,
Those are huge promises,
you
especially
know,
if you have kids involved. I mean, that's
yeah.
just, yeah, asinine if you don't fulfill those.
Yeah, so I don't know, it just seemed like that was completely unnecessary, because
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't, asked for anything, obviously,
Right, right,
and it just sort of like it made me think, okay, well, I won't get that for her. We'll just wait, you
right,
know.
right.
And he's like, see what she thinks. And so she's looped in at this point. She thinks she's getting a guitar
Mm-hmm,
from somebody.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And she was kind of all in too. Like she's at that age, where she believes in romance and fairy tales. So cheers.
Cheers to that.
And I
I
felt like,
still want to believe in romance and fairy tales.
well,
I
good for
do.
you.
Shelby, you know that I'm not at that point, but I do
No,
want
I
to
know
believe
you're
that.
pretty much of a realist, Bee, but
Yeah, yeah,
I would like to believe that there's
yeah,
things can happen that are
yeah,
miraculous, between
yeah.
people.
I was in the car with my mom earlier, and I was like, yeah, da da da. And so the age that I'm operating at is a 40, And my mom goes, "No, you're like 60." And I'm like, "I know, it's horrible. I hate being an adult." It's true. It's like those are the things like what life happens. It just for us women,
Mhm.
you age based on what you're experiencing. Men, they get stuck at
That's
different levels.
that's a good observation there, Beeb. I think you're right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think you're right.
So,
So I don't know
yeah.
how old that makes me, but
No, it doesn't. 1,002.
1,000 years old.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I have been trying to gain some perspective on this.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out like if it's just, as simple as it seems, like I was lonely and this person like
Yeah, yeah,
caught me,
yeah.
when I was vulnerable.
Right,
Um,
right.
but like I said, I don't know that I was lonely. I think I was really, really bored,
Yeah, bored. Obviously
you know?
bored.
Yeah, and just feeling like my life was not ever going to get interesting again, that my sort of years of really living were behind me. I was
Right, right, right.
positive.
But
Um,
through all of this, just to spice it up a little bit, let's spice
mhm,
it up. Did the
mhm.
pictures keep coming?
There were some more dick pics, yes.
Yeah, like how many are we
I think
talking?
there were 3 the first
Mm-hmm.
time, and
Mm-hmm.
they were
Mm.
nice. And then there were 3 more and also very nice. And they seemed like sort of like the background, the setting was the same
Okay.
in some of them, maybe all of them.
Mm. My
But
right
so it
headphone died, so I'm just in
okay,
the left
in
one
the
that
left.
doesn't have great quality, but I'll turn it up. Okay.
Okay. So,
Okay.
um,
Mm.
so yeah, he sent 3 more pictures and to be honest, I believe in balance. We
Yeah.
established that I like balance. So I feel like if this
Yes.
guy's sending me pictures, I need to send him pictures.
Okay.
So so um there were some
Is that
exchanges of photos, yeah.
Oh my God.
But I don't regret that really, or I didn't,
No,
and I
like
still
fuck
I don't
it.
really care. I don't really care.
No, I don't think
I don't
so.
think you can do anything with those pictures that would hurt me any more than anything that's happened that has hurt me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he seemed properly appreciative, and it did feel like
Uh-oh.
I also didn't want him to be shocked by like what I looked like.
So
So
I'm headphones out if this quality is terrible. I'm sorry. They both died.
okay, okay.
Yeah. No, I think we're good.
So just
Um,
full disclosure, yeah, there were pictures
yeah,
going in both
no.
directions,
That's
and
great.
it's
Free
great.
that kitty cat. Free that kitty cat.
So, so his second set of pictures were also great, and also, I mean, they didn't confirm or deny who this was. Again, I couldn't find them online, so I thought maybe this is him, and I continued
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
study the pictures, to study him in any videos or shows, anything I could find. There's not enough flesh out there, Ricky,
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
listening. Maybe
Ricky.
some longer shower scenes in your next
Mm.
show wouldn't be a bad idea, you know?
Mm.
Um, but so it felt like, I guess, I had bared my soul. I had literally bared myself,
Yeah.
and I just still felt like there was this closeness, like the feeling you
Yeah.
get when you can like my fantasy sort of is being able to be so close to someone that you can just lie there with them and tell each other your secrets,
Absolutely.
and you feel
Absolutely.
completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I was feeling, regardless of my reservations about all the money stuff. The money stuff was always what knocked me down. Anytime he
Well,
requested anything, it
yeah.
just like snapped me out of my little dream world. So that was like the highs and lows. It just kept kind of going. And then I thought, the goal, I guess, when I was going through my shrimp wallet phase was to
Wallet.
yeah, was to get him enough money that he could get better, And he would send me like he sent me a picture of Dr. Dave, who obviously could have been any guy in a doctor's coat, in an
Yeah,
office.
yeah.
He sent me pictures of his x-rays, pictures of like the prescriptions that were written for him and
Really?
stuff.
Like very detailed?
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe this guy who was scamming me actually had pneumonia. Who knows? But I don't, I don't know. But he was sort of providing details. Sometimes they seemed like unnecessary details, and sometimes there weren't enough.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
was like a mix of like
Right,
enough to
right.
kind of keep my head spinning and to keep
Yeah.
me second guessing myself, as well as him. So,
So,
yeah.
okay, we haven't had an actual video call. I mean, we're in
No,
like what month we're in? We're in
w-
December,
we're still in November, and at some
November.
point, yeah, I was feeling like very distraught, and I said, well, because he said something like, even if we don't get to have like a video call, we still
Right.
have Venice, and I was like, and I was feeling like really low and shaky about everything. And I said, if you don't have time for a video call, then why would I ever believe we're going to meet in Venice? And I said,
Thank you.
and I was feeling very, very, very fragile. And I said, I wish I could just end this, because
Right,
I
right.
can't, I don't know that I can take anymore. I'm not very strong. And
It,
he got kind of frantic, and he's like, hold on, and he's like, we'll do this. And he said, he was going to try to like get online or get on Zoom or something like that.
yeah.
And then he tried to get on a video call on the platform we were using, which is Telegram, which
Oh,
is,
yeah. Back
I
to
know
the
you have
beginning.
your misgivings about Telegram, and I
Yeah.
guess I do too. But the audio wasn't working and everything, and I was like feeling like very sort of exposed because I
Mm,
couldn't hear him. I could sort of see Ricky Gervais like at his desk
yeah.
talking, but obviously he could have had some video that he somehow popped up there. So that was sort of didn't help prove anything, but it didn't sort of
Right.
disprove anything.
No,
So we kind of aborted that, and he said maybe we can try Zoom, but then he couldn't get into a Zoom account. He's like, Charlie
oh,
always sets this up for
please.
me. And I
Oh,
know, I
please.
know. It was all very messy, and I just felt terrible. I felt terrible. And I didn't really want him to be mad. I didn't want him to think I was being too pushy or asking
Sure.
for,
Don't let them
you
get
know,
mad.
you know. But I just, yeah, I wasn't confident enough that I sort of deserved more than what I was getting. I think was the part of the problem. So
Well,
so that wound up being sort of just a failed attempt at connecting that way. Although in my mind, I thought, it could have been him.
yeah.
It could
Yeah.
have been him.
Hmm.
It didn't kind of change anything really, but I felt like at that point I was kind of like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to give up on the idea of a video call and just hope that April comes
Hmm.
and I get some money back or something changes, so there's some evidence that of what I should do next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I needed more evidence, I guess. I wasn't ready to pull the
Right.
plug
Right. Right.
based on what I
And so,
knew.
and I think like at this point, this relationship really was impacting your life, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean,
Yeah.
in good and bad ways,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
The bad ways I think were that I was just always sort of in this fraught state, of not
Mhm.
knowing um, if I was truly happy or if I was just sort of like, building up this world in my mind that was going to come crashing down. And then I knew if that happened, I was going to be in really bad shape. I knew just based on the October experience of the trip being canceled, how much that devastated me, that this was going to be much worse. So I was always sort of like scared,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
What was
know,
your biggest, I mean, scared, but what was your biggest fear? I mean, you're talking to somebody you don't know, you've given
Mhm,
everything to. Like,
mhm.
what was your biggest fear here?
That I would have to go on with my life without him, that I
Right.
was gonna go back to my life that was like this, like nothing
Okay.
really good.
Okay, wait. I'm your friend. Your life is not like this. Redo this
I used to
because
have
you
more of
and
this, but lately it's been
we're
like
doing
this.
okay. Anyways, we
It
don't.
just feels hard,
Yeah.
and I don't know, there's not many highlights. The highlight of my day is always going to bed, um,
Oh my God.
you
So is
know,
mine though. Wait, hold on.
right?
Hold on.
Maybe
My
that's not
highlight,
unusual.
it's not. I love
Okay.
going to bed. Going to bed is amazing.
Okay,
It is
amen.
the highlight of my night.
Alright, let's cheers to a nice mattress.
Cheers to that. Hell yeah, to a nice
You know?
mattress.
And also, music. I don't
Mm.
think I could have gotten through this without music. I love,
Oh,
love, love music, and that was
oh.
one of the things we bonded over really, was
Mm.
he loves music too. We had a lot of similar sort of tastes, and I
Okay,
would
okay.
would share stuff like that, and so that felt like I don't know. I don't know how people do the kind of research that's necessary to pull off something like this, but that was one of the areas where I thought, this feels like somebody who knows,
Yeah,
enough about music to know what
yeah,
he's talking about. Um, so things like that, like the feelings of being connected with somebody and being able to talk to stuff that's important, to me,
yeah.
felt really good. Also, I think when I was happy, it was honestly the only time I've ever felt happy. Um,
Mm.
I've
Mm.
had moments maybe where something made me laugh and I forgot about everything else,
Yeah,
but to
yeah.
to be able to say that, I was in a situation that was making me feel good about myself and that made me feel like I had stuff to look forward to was brand new. So that went a long way. And then on the downside, I was my sleep schedule, which was
Yeah, your
once
sleep
my favorite
schedule,
part of the
which I
day.
knew. Right, right.
Yeah, because with the time difference, I think like my body was trying to like pull me into London time, so I
Mm-hmm.
would wake up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when his morning
Right,
starts,
right,
and and he would text me that at that hour, and I'd be
right,
awake,
right.
when the text came through, and we'd start texting back and forth at that hour. And so I got sometimes really, really, really ragged, and that's
Yeah,
that's when I would get
yeah.
really sort of like I was, just gonna fall apart. And that's when I would sort
Right,
of have
right.
these breakdowns and he would sort of have to build me back up, So and I felt
Yeah.
like every time I showed him like my real like fragile
Weakness? Yeah.
weakness. Yeah, when I showed him all of my weaknesses and everything, he was so good and so sort of kind at, you know, like allowing me to feel how I needed to feel, and he kind of
Mm-hmm.
helped build me back up, and that was really nice too to be able to show every side of myself and not feel like I was going to be judged or just like dismissed, because I was sort of too much, like we kind of joked that I was a handful, but he was the original handful,
Absolutely.
so we were
Absolutely.
both a handful,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
liked being able to, take care of him, my handful, you know.
Yeah, you do. You're a caretaker in and out of
Well, I like a stray,
you
you know.
do. You love a
He's
stray.
he's not really a stray though.
Yeah, yeah. So what we thought. Okay, so we went through the fears. I mean, like, what
Mhm.
was your biggest fear though, Shelby?
Um, knowing that, well, first losing him, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that I could lose him if this wasn't real, knowing that I was
Right,
probably gonna be the one who had to decide,
right, right.
that he wasn't gonna be part of my life anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and just not wanting to feel all the things that were going to be on the other side of that decision, like
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
he had
yeah.
he had presented me with like an alternate future for myself,
Right, right,
and the
right.
current future that I'm looking
Yeah,
at is pretty bleak.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a house that is a money pit, and it's
Hmm.
cold, and half of the electrical outlets don't work,
The
stuff like that. All of these things, that I can't
struggles.
the struggles, yeah, the struggles of
Yeah,
being single and just
yeah.
not, you know, having the wherewithal to deal with the day-to-day kinds of things that,
Hmm.
an adult is supposed to.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't want to go back to that version of
no,
my reality,
no. You were in a totally different place. But so like
Mhm.
wrapping up the timeline here, how
Mhm.
have you thought about the way you've changed since late August and then now November? I mean, like we are talking
Mhm.
that is a good amount of time. Like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
are the pros and cons of this connection? How your communication seems to be pretty fluid, but correct me on that.
Yeah, I feel like we had gotten into a really nice rhythm, like I said, because we sort of had the financial stuff sorted out, so I knew kind of what to expect. I knew that I was funding his treatment, and he kept saying, like I saved him, like he wouldn't have been able to like keep
Mm,
touring and working if it hadn't been for me. It wasn't like he wasn't grateful, but obviously, if he wasn't
yeah,
ever sick, and it wasn't
yeah.
ever
Then it,
him, then, those are
yeah,
just words.
yeah.
But I think, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like I finally experienced myself as I always wanted to be.
Right, right.
And I felt like, anytime I had liked somebody in the past, I knew there was this version of myself inside, like my best
Mm-hmm.
version, but I was never able to really show that to anybody before,
Right.
so it felt good to be myself, to be who I truly was and wanted to be, and to feel
Mm-hmm.
like I was appreciated for that,
Mm-hmm.
felt kind of like I was alive for the first time.
Yeah.
And but then, now I know that that was all a lie, so I'm not sure what it means, and
Yeah,
it was like every
we're so deep into this.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
just how do you get yourself out? I mean, really. I mean, at that point again, we're speaking on something that happened in the past and now we're
Mhm.
bringing light to it, but it is
It's a very recent past, yeah.
yeah, a recent past.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're telling the story only to bring
Mhm.
light to hopefully let others know that this isn't just like a one off for these
Yes.
guys, for these people.
No, I think, obviously some people have figured out that there are people out there who are, I don't wanna say desperate, but people who long for some sort of meaningful connection, um, and you're sorta willing to accommodate doubts in order to maintain that connection, um, so I hope, I mean, I don't know who I am now, but I feel like I'm I'm definitely not a person who has much hope at this point. I feel like
I know.
I don't ever imagine myself believing that anything good will happen again.
Well, I'll be your fighter. And for that, I am going to close this session with saying no matter how many times you get knocked down, you still have to get back up. And there are people that, honestly, Shelby, from what you've done here and just knowing your like heart and your faith and who you are as a person, you would cut your left limb off just to give to another person. And so this was a hiccup in the road, and unfortunately, it was taken advantage of. But moving forward, like, I think we have a good plan
We
of,
do.
well, maybe not
We
a
have
good
a plan.
plan. We don't have a plan. Maybe not a plan. But it's just, this isn't the end. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
Okay. All right,
This is
Beep.
the beginning of us realizing what you need, you
Hmm.
recognizing what you need, and going
Mhm.
after it.
Hmm. All right. All right.
Well, yeah.
I like your fight. I like your spirit, Beeb.
I'm trying to
She's like
fight.
half my age, so forgive
Yeah.
her for still
Anyways,
having hope. Oh dear. Bless
meanwhile,
your heart, Beeb. You're a
yeah,
good
meanwhile,
friend. You
shout out
really
to
are.
my aunt who is driving across the country right now.
Yeah, I am sorry if we startled you with any information
Yeah, well,
here.
she is listening to this podcast and she is game for it because it happened to her as well. So,
Oh, well, I really hope that she feels less alone, and if if I
yeah,
make anybody feel like
less
they're not
silly.
alone, less silly, that's good. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
That helps.
that's
That
all we're
helps
here
me.
about.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the last episode, if you want to drop us a line, let us
Oh,
know if you've had an
oh,
experience like this. I think there's ways to send messages via any platform, but you can also email us at rickygervaisrobot@gmail.com.
yeah, reach
That's
out. Anyone, we want to hear stories. We want to actually advocate for those who
Yeah,
have gone through
definitely.
this.
Yeah,
So,
because I do think that a very small fraction of people ever report this kind of thing. And I wouldn't, I'm not going to take it to the authorities because I feel like everything I
that's the
did
fucking point.
was
Yeah,
voluntary. And
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
this is a person who's far away, so
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. No, but I'm a younger generation and I do think all of you deserve to be heard and I don't want this to happen to the people I love, the people I
Hmm.
know.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
and you're the second person that I know and that I love that this has happened to. And you know what? We're gonna put a fucking squash on it. And
Okay. All right. Let's
yeah,
hope so, babe. Let's hope so.
I
And
let's
yeah, so we'll talk again. Maybe wrap
okay,
this up
yeah,
again next
yeah,
time. But
okay.
all right, babe. Take
All
care.
right.
Thank you so much for
Mwah.
being such a good friend.
Oh, you're the best.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.